So this is happening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. My name is TAUSIF, and this is episode 2 of Codex Emporium. And in this codex, we will be exploring the history of the samurai. The recent release of action-adventure game Ghost of Tsushima has got people excited, so I thought, what better time than now to delve into the rich history and lore of the mighty and virtuous Knights of the East. So in today's video, we will be exploring the history of the samurai, and in the second part, we will discuss their weapons and war strategy. Around the 8th century AD, during the early Heian period, when the early Japanese people, known as the Yamato, started to explore towards the north side of Japan and reached northeastern Honshu, they happened upon an ancient ethnic group of people who they named the Emishi. Because they had thick beards and were very hairy, they were called Ibisu, which quite literally meant the hairy people. The Yamato at the time comprised mainly of heavy infantry, whereas the semi-nomadic Emishi were adept at horse archery, the likes of which the Proto-Japan military was not used to. So they gradually adopted the Emishi horse archery tactics, and though there were clashes between the Yamato and the Emishi, around the late 8th century the Emishi were subjugated and assimilated into the Heian Japanese rule. It was around this time some of the most popular Japanese weaponry started to take root. The Japanese became seemingly efficient at horse archery and started to produce curved swords, which were the ancestors of the modern-day katana. The powerful Japanese families would create a network of feudal domains. These feudal lords would call themselves daimyos, which in Japanese meant great names. These daimyos would hire guards or henchmen to protect their property and collect taxes. They called them samurai, which literally meant servant or lackey or henchman. As these feudal lords gained power, controlling them became a challenge for the central Japanese government, which was based mainly in Kyoto. And among these feudal lords, one lord named Minamoto no Yoritomo managed to overthrow the Japanese government and became the first shogun and established the Kamakura shogunate. It was under Yoritomo's rule the samurais thrived and gained unfathomable prestige. To teach the samurai proper discipline and at the same time maximize their efficiency, Bushido, which was the samurai code of conduct, was formed. Bushido meaning the way of the warrior. Things kept going until around the late 13th century when the Mongols under the rule of Kublai Khan decided to invade Japan. They started by completely obliterating the island of Tsushima, and once you play Ghost of Tsushima, you will most likely learn about the horrors the Mongols brought down upon the Japanese island. The samurai launched constant suicide missions and gave their best to defend their beloved land, but in the end, Tsushima met its fate. After Tsushima, the island of Iki soon followed the same fate. And the Mongolians' way of inflicting pain upon the Japanese were horrific to say the least, as they would capture villagers and tie them around their ships like a painful human necklace of agony. But the Mongol invasions ended when 2 giant storms obliterated the Mongol fleet. The Japanese were finally at ease. They later named the storms Kamikaze, which meant divine wind. And this is where the word originated from. The Mongol invasion weakened the shogunate and they started to lose control over their local daimyos. Soon after, the Kamakura shogunate fell. Afterwards, the local lords started to fight one another to claim the title of shogun. This era is famously known to us as the Sengoku Jedi period, or the Age of Warring States. It lasted from the 15th to 17th century. Most of the samurai legends and tales originate from this period. Many great figures such as Oda Nobunaga, Miyamoto Musashi, and Hattori Hanzo sprung forth and performed feats of great valor and heroism around this time. During this period, a warlord or daimyo named Oda Nobunaga tried to unify Japan and get all of the Japanese provinces under his rule. He was successful in conquering several feudal domains, but was ultimately betrayed and trapped by his own general, Akechi Mitsuhide. Nobunaga failed to escape his misery and committed suicide. Territorial dispute resumed, and eventually the Japanese people were divided into two main factions. At one side was the eastern forces of Tokugawa Ieyasu, and on the other side was Toyotomi Hideyori and the western clans who fought for him. The Battle of Sekigahara commenced. The legendary samurai warrior Miyamoto Musashi fought on the side of Tokugawa Ieyasu. Another famous figure who worked for Ieyasu was the legendary demon samurai and shinobi master Hattori Hanzo. Tokugawa Ieyasu came out victorious in the Battle of Sekigahara and unified all of Japan under the Tokugawa shogunate, which lasted from 1603 to 1868. Japan was a peaceful place during this period, and the samurai had no more battles to fight, and so their samurai way of life dwindled. Their martial training was preserved as an art form, a symbol of Japan's glorious past. So this was the history of the samurai, but now a little something about their culture. A samurai usually worked under a master. If a samurai lost his master, for example, if a master died or for some reason banished a samurai, then the samurai had two options. Either perform seppuku, which was their way of committing suicide by thrusting his sword in his belly, or live the rest of his life as a ronin. A ronin was a samurai without a master. They usually worked as mercenaries or bandits. There are records of female samurai as well, and they fought alongside male samurai at times of need. Now let's talk about their weapons and tactics. The samurai were highly proficient archers and could use their bows from horseback with lethal accuracy. Their bows were called the yumi. Aside from archery, their primary weapon in melee combat was the yari, which was the traditional samurai spear, and contrary to popular belief, the katana was their secondary weapon. During the Heian period, the samurai used swords called the tachi, which were the predecessors of the katana. Aside from the standard katana, they also carried a smaller blade called the wakizashi, which they used in extreme cases of close quarters combat. Samurai armor was made of leather, wood, and steel plating, and they were laced together with silk cord. Their helmets were made of thick steel. So that was all I had to say about the samurai and their history and their warfare. I know it took me a while to upload this video because I had to do a ton of research and gather as much information as I could. That's why the delay. And a huge shout out to Navid Hasan Radiat for providing me with Ghost of Tsushima gameplay. He is an awesome guy. Go check his profile out, give him a follow, and check out his gameplay photography. I will be providing his link in the description as well. If you like this video, then support us by hitting the like button and push the bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And make sure to share as much as you can with all your friends. And as always, my name is TAUSIF, aka TAUSIF Trevelyan, and I'll see you in the next video.